It's time for our October plan with me. The theme this month is marigolds, and I'm doing a beautiful harvest moon cover page, calendar, and so much more. Hello there, welcome back. Hi, my name is Shayda and it's time for our October plan with me. So I am working in this cute little journal. This is from Bear & Fig and I've got the fancy cover on it. I recently released a video all about my favorite Bujo supplies, so be sure to check that out. This is my second journal for 2020. I'm following the birth flowers for my monthly theme. So last month was asters and we did a big calendar. We're gonna do that again. Did a cute weekly layout. I had like a crazy week. I could barely illustrate it. I'm gonna leave one more week for September layouts and flip over and we are in October. As usual, I'm doing a Dutch door cover page, which is kind of like a cutaway page. If you're doing that, you just want to mark in the same number of squares on both the page on top and below. Now, October is really special. First of all, the theme is marigolds for October. Second of all, October has 2 full moons in it. So I'm doing this harvest moon cover page with marigolds. The moons are the 1st and the 31st, the harvest and the hunter's moon. And you saw I traced this circle twice and that helps me get a nice crescent. And then I kind of sketched around the crescent. So it's as simple as that. And then we're going to draw a bunch of marigolds and I am just doing circles. Remember, start with a guide. Just draw circles where you want each flower to sit. From there, you can surround all the circles with leaves, maybe add a few berries. So that's just a reminder to start with a guide. You really set yourself up for success when you do that. Just don't jump in and start trying to draw flowers. Let's get rid of some of our pencil. We'll talk color in a second, but first, I'd like to mention that my cover page will be available on Patreon. Patreon is a great way to support the channel. I give weekly bonus content there like planner printables and worksheets. Check it out after the tutorial. All right, here's the color palette I'm working with. Of course, I'm starting with some warm grays. Those are going to be great for the moon. I'm going to work with some warm colors like browns and oranges, and I'll complement those with blue, a nice muted navy blue. I've got this beautiful apricot color, and then I'm using my koi brush pen. I just needed this really warm honey brown, and I didn't have a Faber-Castell Pitt pen, but that's the color palette. I might add a little pink in there, but that gives you the general idea. So let's jump right in, and I'm starting with my light warm gray, and I'm just going to fill in the entirety of the crescent moon. Of course, I chose gray for my moon, but I also think it would look pretty in pink or orange. There's so many choices for this. Once that's done, let's talk about how to illustrate the marigolds. I start with a little circle of these tiny lines, and then I go around and add another circle of tiny lines. And then I go around again and add another perimeter. And from there, it's really just this big burst of these tiny little lines. It's a really quick and simple and effective way to illustrate the marigold and capture the look of the tiny petals without spending a ton of time. And I use the apricot color in the Faber-Castell, and then I'm complementing that with this honey brown in the koi brush pen. You know, fall, I don't love warm colors. I like a cooler color palette. So I had to get creative and kind of think about how I would make this work. And I love the way the muted blue works with this peach, and it all kind of comes together. So let's finish illustrating these little cuties, and then we'll grab that dark navy blue. And of course, we're not going to do green leaves. What else is new? We'll add these blue leaves, and I'm simply drawing curving lines for the stems and then doing these little oval shaped leaves, and it couldn't be easier. I'd like to take a moment to thank Skillshare for sponsoring our video today. Skillshare is an online learning community where millions come together to take the next step in their creative journey. There's thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people on topics like illustration, watercolor, photography, design, and so much more. Skillshare classes are curated towards learning, meaning you're not watching ads. A lot of them have a combination of video lessons and class projects, and an annual subscription is less than $10 a month. And right now, the first 1,000 people to use the link in my video description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. All right, that's all done. Those navy leaves create a really complementary border for our harvest moon marigolds. I decided to layer a little bit more color there, adding some darker brown. And then we need to draw our second moon, the hunter's moon. So I traced my washi tape, and now I've got the 2 moons of October contained in my little illustration. I'm just going to get rid of some of the extra pencil because I'm going to color this moon in with the very, very light warm gray. So this one is a super light color. I don't want any pencil lines coming through, and I'm just going to carefully add the gray to the moon. With that all done, this is optional, but I am attempting to add a little bit of shading to my moon. So I just did some kind of squiggly lines and a few little circles. This is the full moon. Well, they're both supposed to be full moons, but you know, for the sake of the design, one's a crescent. And I just kind of tried to do some little craters there with my warm gray. And then I'm using the even darker warm gray to add a few more leaves and really help with this burst of marigolds and leaves and flowers and all that. And then I tried adding some light pink leaves. I don't know how successful that was. I darkened it up with kind of this light apricot. And yeah, that's our simple marigold harvest moon cover page. It's pretty cool. There's 2 full moons in October, so be on the lookout on the 1st and the 31st. I wrote October in pencil, just in a nice simple uppercase font. I'm not the best hand letterer, and some words I just find so difficult to write in a nice cursive, and October is one of them. So I just chose to print it. And then since I had my black pen out, my fine liner, I decided to add just a little bit of that sketchy black line to some of the blue leaves. So I'm not going over everything, just some of the blue leaves, those really light pink leaves, and it's always a good idea to add a few extras that don't have any color. All right, let's cut this out, the Dutch door cutting out process. I know it makes some of you nervous. It makes me nervous, frankly, but I just take a cutting mat and a ruler. I've got a little paper knife, and it's pretty straightforward. You cut along the ruler where you can, and then just use the paper knife or embroidery scissors to cut out the rest of the design. Okay, moving right along here, I drew out my little calendar in the bottom corner of the page below, and then on this under page, I always also put my goals and affirmations for the month. It just kind of hides it away, and I like that. And I decided to also draw the marigolds. I typically will draw the flower of the month on this page as well. I'm not going to bore you by going through it again, but I start with a guide. Every circle represents a flower and the size of that flower, and then of course we use our markers to do these spiky little petals in rows and rows and rows, and of course I'll finish them with some blue leaves. Are you someone that enjoys a warm color palette or a cool color palette? I am so drawn to those cool wintry colors. I always struggle in the fall to create color palettes that feel seasonally appropriate. I know some people just love orange. Orange to me is like just so jarring, but you know what? In this case, I'm really enjoying that apricot and brown. So I don't know, I'm coming around. Comment below, let me know. I'm adding just a wee bit of brown to my marigolds, just like I did on the cover page above. And then of course we'll highlight our little calendar, and that's pretty much it. Cover page complete. So let's flip over, and we are going to do another large monthly calendar. Now for mine, I did a grid where each square is 5 by 5, and I offset it, put it on the left, and that gave me this large space on the right for an illustration. Moons, turns out they're really easy to draw. You just trace something round that you happen to have on your desk. So I am tucking a big full moon in behind the calendar here, and of course I'm just coloring it in with gray, and we're going to do another really simple full moon illustration. I'm going to use my Derwent fine liner. This is the Derwent graphic line marker, and I am just, I've said it before, I'm allergic to rulers. What I like to do is just pull the pen towards my body. That helps me keep the lines fairly straight enough. And so I'm just going over the entire grid, adding the numbers. I'm going to use a black brush marker to fill in those 2 squares across the top, and of course that's where I'll put all the days of the week. So simple enough. Do it in pencil first. Pull the pen towards your body, and a calendar only needs to take 15 minutes to put together. Let's do a cute little illustration. We're gonna do some more florals. And because I've got this big round moon here, I think it will be pretty to do a silhouette. So what I've done is sketch these really vertical flowers and leaves in pencil. Then I'm taking my line marker and I am just going over them and sort of coloring them in. So this couldn't be easier. We're doing vertical leaves, just anything growing up towards the moon, into the full moon. For this flower, I'm doing these 4 heart-shaped petals, coloring them in, and I'll just go along like that, adding some flowers and leaves, and it's going to look like this. Again, it's kind of a harvest moon illustration, and if you've been practicing your florals, this will be really fun to draw. If you're looking for help with your floral doodles, I've got tons of videos, so not to worry, and I will link a playlist in the video description. I like the way that looks. Again, you could color in the moon any color. Pink or peach would look really nice, especially for that harvest moon or hunter's moon. I'm using my dark warm gray to do a little banner right underneath. And that dark color allows me to use my white gel pen to write the word October on top. And if you're curious again about my favorite supplies like this white gel pen, watch the video all about my favorite bullet journaling supplies. Okay, for this moon, even though I've got this pretty silhouette in front, I still want to add some detailing. So I'm using the dark gray to give some shading and craters. And you might be thinking this is looking a little harsh, a little stiff, but watch what we're gonna do. I think this is interesting. I'm taking my light gray, the same color I colored the moon in with, and I'm actually using it to shade. So alcohol markers are great for shading and blending. These are not them. These are water-based markers, which are hard to blend. But you know what water-based markers are good for? They always cause fine liners to bleed. So I'm using that to my advantage. I'm going over the silhouette illustration with my India ink, or it's a water-based marker, and I'm actually picking up some of that black pen, and I'm able to use that to kind of shade the moon so that it doesn't look so stiff and harsh. Then once I'm done with that, I'm going to take my white gel pen and just add some scribbly bits. And in that way, I am able to shade the moon, even though I'm using water-based markers, or actually the Faber-Castells are India ink. But I think what we did here is pretty interesting. And for anyone wondering, I don't use alcohol-based because they bleed through the page. Okay, I love the way that turned out. Our calendar is done. It looks cute. You've got space for notes if you need it. And we'll flip over and talk weekly layout. So let's get right into it. I am marking in 6 squares on both sides of the margin, and then I've also divided the page into sections so that I have a section for each day of the week. I just put some pencil lines there, and then you see it makes it really easy to do these nice uniform lines with marker, and that'll be my date header for each day of the week. And then the 8th section is for my notes and to-do lists. Okay, let's add some color, shall we? I guess I'm just crazy for color now. Basically, I always do some version of the same 2 weekly layouts. That's what it feels like to me anyways. I either divide the 2 pages horizontally or vertically. Since lately we've done a lot of horizontal layouts, I'm going back to a vertical one, but instead of doing like a big burst of flowers in the center or something like that, I've got this very defined margin, and I'm going to fill it with leaves and berries and acorns and other autumny things. So I'm starting with my dark warm gray, and I'm illustrating all these oak leaves. Then I'm picking up the lighter gray, and I'm just going to do some oval leaves. So think about different shapes. You could do really simple stuff here. Just keep them all kind of large and think about the color palette. Keep a thoughtful color palette, and this comes together really easily. So I've got a couple oak leaves, a couple oval shaped leaves. Now I'm picking up my burgundy marker, and we're going to draw some large berries. I'll add stems and leaves to those as well using my dark brown. So I was thinking about using that kind of dark magenta for the cover page. It didn't end up on there, but this is the perfect place to add it, and that way the whole color theme really flows nicely through the month. I've added brown leaves. I'm also going to pick up my apricot again, and we'll draw these little acorns. They're basically just circles with a little hat on them. And if you draw a couple, you can join them with some stems. But that's the idea. Think of a thoughtful color palette or follow along with mine. And we're just drawing large leaves and berries. If you're in Australia and it's not, or anywhere in the southern hemisphere for that matter, and it's not autumn, this would be so easy to do for spring and summer, just using large leaf shapes and smaller flowers and berries. Then if you've been using some darker, richer colors like I have, it's a fun idea to take that white gel pen and add a few details to some of the darker leaves, just some veining or a line down the spine of the leaf. That really adds a lot to the illustration. And then by the same token, if you've done light leaves, you can take a darker colored marker and add some detail to them as well. I've got the whole margin filled in now, and I think it looks nice. It's this big burst of autumn colors. I decided to finish up by simply adding a little bit of shading to some of the acorns. And then of course I'm writing in the days of the week. I've got those nice color blocks that divide up my week really beautifully. I can put the date underneath. You could also put that in the color block. And then of course my last section is just for notes and to-do lists. And that's it. That's my simple weekly layout. I think she's so pretty, and can we all just take a second to appreciate how much color I've really put into this layout, even autumn colors, you guys. All right, let's take a look at the entire layout for October. We did this fun marigold and harvest moon theme with our dual moon. I love doing a Dutch door. Comment below, is the Dutch door for you, or does cutting your journal kind of freak you out? We've got our goals and affirmations for the month tucked away underneath, and I just realized I usually write the flower of the month. So I'm just going to write that in real quick there, marigold. But yes, that's our Dutch door. And then if I flip over, we have our calendar, a large, nice calendar, lots of space for writing out. I usually use mine for my YouTube schedule, so I like to have lots of space. And then our simple but colorful weekly layout. Oh, and just looking at this now, I also realized I forgot to write marigold in, and then on this one, I forgot to write the month. Like normally I would put October somewhere on here. So I grabbed the warm gray, the dark one, and just did another little banner, and then same drill with the white gel pen. You could just write October 2020 or whatever up there, but not necessary, but it kind of looks cute, and it finishes off the spread really nicely, I think. So there we go. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget, we put out a video every Tuesday and Friday around here. Yes, there's 8 or 9 videos every month. So make sure you're subscribed to the Shayda Campbell YouTube channel with your notifications on. And if you'd like to support the channel, head over to Patreon, because you can get a lot of stuff for just a couple bucks a month, including the planner cover page printable. And thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. As I mentioned before, Skillshare is curated towards learning with lots of video classes. It's less than 10 bucks a month. And one class I thought you might really enjoy is this How to Talk About Art, a Beginner's Guide. This is just a short class that's a great introduction into the world of art. They aim to give you the courage to have an opinion about art and give you some of the language to talk about it. And especially if you're curious about modern or contemporary art, I think this short little class would just be a really enjoyable way to spend an evening. Remember, the first 1,000 people to use the link in my description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership.